prospects are giving you surface level answers, you're getting closing conflict, and why you're getting knee jerk reactions on your sales presentations, right? So, with that being said, let's go ahead and dive in because we've got a lot to cover. Now, number one of the main reasons why you get surface level answers is because number one is you sound scripted. You probably are sounding scripted. You've probably been given a script from your sales trainer, your upline, or what have you, and they told you, hey, you need to read the script verbatim, of course, in order to kind of walk yourself through the sales process. And what happens is, unfortunately, is in most cases when you sound scripted, you are not being genuine, you're not being authentic, you're not having an authentic, genuine, casual sales conversation. And so, unfortunately, when you sound scripted, what happens is your prospects begin to close down and shut down emotionally because they feel like it is a sales setting. And so, when you are scripted, it doesn't mean you shouldn't have a script, or I like to call them a framework, but it's just a framework. That's all that is. It's just a blueprint for you to actually follow, not necessarily word for word, but just to give you a process to go through in order for you to actually get the questions that you need to ask and the answer that you need out of the prospect so you can identify how you can help them and their wants, their needs, and pain points and things like that. So, if you are getting your prospects, they're shutting down on you emotionally, it's because you probably sound scripted. Okay. You're probably doing one of the other things is like fake mirroring. Now, I know when I got in sales industry years ago, mirroring was one of the things that my upline actually told me to do. So, let's, for example, I was in a home. In most cases, I was in a home selling solar, and I never forget. I would be sitting at a kitchen table, with the husband and wife and the couple, and I would be like, when I see them make certain movements, I would kind of move with them. They would lean in, I would lean in. They'd lean back, I would lean back. They would say certain things, and I would like repeat what they said. And most of the time, it was because I didn't really know like what to say after, right? So I would repeat what they would say, and then I would just kind of stall instead of moving the sale through with as far as like asking more questions and the right questions, right? So I would make statements based upon my script, but that was all that it was just statements. And so if you are just making statements instead of asking questions, then you're going to have those stalls and it's going to sound scripted and it's inauthentic. It's not a casual conversation like they're used to having. And so when you are in a sales setting, your sales presentations should be no different for the most part than a conversation that you would have with a friend, let alone that they would be having with a friend. So hope that makes sense. Number two is asking surface level questions. Now, surface level questions are typically the main reason why your prospects filled out the form while you're there, right? So let's just say, for example, your prospects filled out a form online for solar. And the obvious things are like rate hikes, right? Their utility bills have increased over the last 3 months, 6 months, over the summer, what have you, the last year. And so now they're concerned. That's your surface level. That's just your basic intrinsic need, right? That's just your general need. However, once you begin to truly like ask questions and dig deeper with probing questions, you're going to find out there's two to three more reasons or underlying factors as to why like they need to buy your product or your service. And in most cases, your prospects, they don't even know it. And so you're actually helping them uncover underlying problems or implications that they in most cases didn't even really know existed. And so let's say, for example, for solar, just as an example, if your prospect, they fill out a form, like I said, because they had rate hikes over the last year. That's like the obvious. And so if you're asking like that's like an obvious. So that's a question that you already know the answer to. And so you're going to get a knee jerk response because it's just surface level. Well, once you begin to truly like dig deep and you ask questions like, okay, so what's like, well, how's this affecting you guys? Right. Now you may know some of the answers, but it's not for you to answer, it's for them to answer, right? And so when you begin asking these questions like that's you can start with your surface level, but you don't end there. So you may start with it, but you have to begin to ask multiple questions and second level, third level questions, which is where you really begin to find out like the heart of the matter, like how it's truly affected them, the root causes of the problem, right? And like where they're at because of the situation at hand. And so if you're asking these questions like surface level questions and you're just leaving it there like as if that's going to move the sale, then you're going to get surface level answers. You're going to get knee jerk responses. You're going to get vague responses, and your prospects are not going to move forward because you're not building that gap that you need to build in order for them to feel the need to change. Okay. So that's number two. Number three is if you're asking questions too fast. Now, like, I know nobody's ever said this before, but nobody says you have to go fast. And so I know, unfortunately, sometimes as sales reps, we think that like sometimes when you're in a sales setting and it's taking like a long time, you get kind of antsy and you want to hurry up and get it done. And so you start asking questions fast. You start trying to move through the process, assuming that that's going to actually help you close the deal. Nobody says you have to go fast, right? Like you do not need to go fast. Take your time, actively listen to your prospects, take your time with them, be in the moment with them, be in the present with them. Because if you start asking questions too fast, you're just trying to fly through your presentation, your prospects can feel that you are in a hurry, that you're in a rush, and they're just not going to feel like you truly, genuinely care about them and their situation. And so if you're asking questions too fast, what happens is you don't give your prospects time to internalize exactly what it is that you're asking them. You don't give them time to think about the question. So let's say, for example, you say, you're in the home like Jim and Tammy. Say Jim and Tammy, like, so you guys want life insurance, I'm assuming, because like you guys had a relative die and you guys don't want to leave a burden for the family, right? Right? Like that's obvious, obviously, but not only that, but I'm asking the question like super fast. And so what happens is I'm not giving them time to think about what I'm asking them. And so what happens is you get those knee-jerk responses, and to them it's equivalent to asking a loaded question, right? Like think about the time when somebody has asked you like a loaded question, like multiple questions in one, right? You're kind of like it made you like it was too much to think about, right? And so you either give a knee jerk response or you go, man, like what do you mean, right? Like it was it's a loaded question. And so you're not giving them anything to internalize and to think about so that they can actually process what it is that you're asking and think deeply on the question that you're asking. So if you're asking questions too fast, slow down and be mindful that you need to give them time to actually think about it. And what this does is it gives them time to actually process like their internal buying behaviors. It triggers like their internal emotional buying triggers. And what that means is because you want them to really think, when they think long enough, hard enough, they actually will tap into what actually um, makes them feel like they need help, right? They're gonna tap into their feelings, and you can get them to shift from just the logical side to the emotional side. When you just, say things like super fast, then what happens is they're just gonna go think logically, right? So that's the next one. Number four is not understanding how to tap into their emotional triggers. And this is huge because if you never tap into your prospects' emotional buying triggers, you're never going to build a gap. You're never going to get them to see the need. You're never going to get them to actually bring whatever pain that they had to the present, meaning in the conversation, so that you can actually create the urgency to actually move and take action. And so, the three biggest drivers, number one, of pain is current pain or future pain or the desire to be in a better place. Those are three. I know most gurus tell you it's just two, like current pain or future pain, but it's not only that, it's current pain, it's the fear of future pain, but it's also the desire to be in a specific place, right? Or a certain feeling. So you're always selling based up on a physical or emotional need or just a fear or the fear. So they're either running from something and or they're running to something. They're running from something and they're pursuing something. So they do not want to be in a specific place, right? Emotionally, financially, physically, whatever it may be, or they desire to be in a specific place emotionally, financially, physically, right? And so those are the things that you have to learn. So you want to learn how to tap into those emotional drivers. And so the biggest thing is, like I said, is pain. If you can't bring your prospects the pain from their recurrent reality to the conversation, and they don't feel that pain, then they're never going to see a need to change. They're not going to feel any urgency to change. So you want to be mindful that you always need to begin to ask questions like, say for example, they fill out a form for life insurance, just as an example. And usually when people fill out a form for life insurance, like it's because it's a non-tangible product, obviously, but they're like maybe their relative died and they didn't have coverage. So they had to do a GoFundMe, a car wash, and or a fish fry. Or they had to, ask people for money basically, which is GoFundMe. And so that pain, like if once people go through that and they fill out a form like and they've experienced it, it's not a good feeling. And so in most cases it's embarrassing, right? It makes them feel less than. And that is like one of their biggest emotional drivers is not having something in place, right? Because of that, the experience. So they've had a current fear, they've had a current experience that created that fear, that discomfort. And so now they want something in place so that obviously that doesn't happen again. And so you're preventing that situation from surfacing again in their life, right? And so when you are able to tap into those emotions, like what is their deep rooted why, then and you're able to expound on that and why. So let's just say, for example, they tell you that. Well, you want to ask, like, so Susie, so like, how was that, right? Like, so what was it like having to do a GoFundMe? So what was it like to actually, have to do a car wash? Like, what was it like? Like, how was that experience having to go online and ask people that you don't even know for money to take care of your mom that passed away? Right? Oh, well, it was horrible. You know what? It really just made me feel like, less than and I felt ashamed because we didn't think about these things ahead of time and I just never want to experience that again. I don't want anyone to experience that, right? So you're tapping into those emotional drivers. And so that's important. So if you never tap into the emotional drivers of your prospects or emotional buying triggers, they're never going to see a sense of urgency to move. They're never going to see a need to move, and which means they're not going to buy your product. They're not going to buy your service, which means you actually didn't help them. You let them down. And so I hope this makes sense. Hope you got some value from this. So these are the four things. Number one is sounding scripted. Okay. I'm not saying you don't need scripts, but you don't want to read your script verbatim. Once you do enough calls, you really don't even necessarily need a script. I wouldn't say not have it on hand, but it's just a guide to guide you through your process. Number two is asking surface level questions. Okay. Avoids asking surface level questions. Always get straight to the why. So whenever I get on a call, I'm going straight to the why. I might say something like, how's your week going? Or how's the day going? Whatever. But I'm going to get straight into like why they called. And I know the initial reason, right? And so I'm going to get straight into the initial reason as to why we're on the call. And then I'm going to set the premise or set the stage for the remainder of the call. Number three is asking questions too fast. So avoid asking questions too fast. Nobody says you have to go fast. It's okay to go slow. Take your time when you're dealing with your prospects. And number four is learning how to tap into emotional drivers, because if you do not tap into emotional drivers, you're going to have a hard time getting your prospects to see the need to move, to see the need to change, to see the need to buy your product or service, because there is no incentive. And so you always be mindful that if you can't show them that you're providing a service or a product that's going to put them in a better situation than where they are and make the pain of staying where they are greater than it is to making a switch or making a change into buying your product or buying your service or moving into your situation, then they will not buy. And so therefore, you're not helping them. So I hope you got ton of value from this video. Of course, till next time, I'll see you guys online. Don't forget to subscribe, comment, like, and share. Till next time, I'll see you on the internet. Love you, sales reps.